Welcome back for another episode of Branching Out with Sierra. Today we're on episode 29, Leadership's Greatest Hits. And what we're going to do today is we are going to unpack some of the most common leadership challenges that we have heard about from our clients, whether it's a speaking engagement, a coaching session, whatever it may be, those common pain points that we hear in leadership. You might wonder who we is. I am talking about Jay Foreman is back again. He's joining us today, and we're going to talk about those 3 challenges that most often come up for him and the 3 for me, which actually aren't the same. We were chatting about them before the episode, so I'm excited to provide some ideas of some possible solutions with Jay here today. Thanks again for being here.
Hey, I'm excited to be back. Thanks for having me, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
First of all, let me say I am loving this right now because I'm going to let the audience in on a secret that something that you hate to do.
Oh, gosh.
You're winging this episode.
Oh,
there's no
you just
no
told
format.
on me.
I love this. I hope I'm not being. We talked earlier. I hope I'm not being a bad influence on you here. But this is going to be fun.
It is.
Right?
It is fun. So yes, I don't typically wing it. I usually send the guests some questions to go off of. I pick my title in advance. You know, all of this today. We are just truly making it up as we go, which is going to be fun.
Yes.
But you're right. I'd never have the confidence to do that if it weren't for you, Jay. I know it's possible because of you.
Oh my gosh, it's getting deep in here already. No, I'm excited to be here. Always love listening to your podcast. I love the opportunity to be a guest on your podcast, and it's the Christmas season. It's my favorite time of year. So this is just like everything culminating at once here. I'm loving life. And
I can see you're channeling all your energy right
Yes,
now.
yes.
It's exciting. I can see the passion.
And I have a fun story for you. One of your Wolfpack members and another podcast guest, a good friend of both of ours, Will Lawrence. Will has come through for me. I call it the Cabbage Patch Kid syndrome. Every year there seems to be that one gift. Remember back in the 80s when the Cabbage Patch, everyone was fighting in the stores trying to get that last Cabbage Patch Kid.
By the way, I was born at the end of the 80s, so I don't remember too well.
I know. I wasn't going to throw you under the bus and say, here's what Cabbage Patch Kids are, Sierra. But so every year there's something different. And this year it happened to be a video game that I wanted to get for one of my kids.
Okay.
Right. And I couldn't find it. Sold out everywhere. Or you can find it. It's being price gouged to like double, triple.
Yeah.
People are charging for it. So we've talked before in leadership about connectors, knowing people that can either get something done or know somebody that can get something done. Will's one of those guys because he just wears so many hats.
He does.
Insane, right?
Yes.
So I called Will and I said, Will, here's the situation. We were a couple weeks out. I need some help here. And Will, he's like, let me look into a few things. And I was like, okay, thanks. And I wasn't going to bother him. I figured he'll either get it done or he won't. Yesterday, I'm working in my home office, and all of a sudden I get a text pop up, and it's from Will, and all it is a photograph. He took a picture with his phone of the video game lying outside my front door.
Stop it.
Yeah. And he got it. And he got it for 20% cheaper than what the retail price going is.
Okay, so what's the secret? How did he do it?
He wouldn't tell me.
Oh, well, that's
it's
scary.
It's almost like the mafia, right? He's like, the less you know, the better. So yes,
wow.
The mystique of Will Lawrence continues to grow.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
He saved Christmas for me this year. So I just wanted to give him a shout out on the podcast before we dive into
You think
things.
he's actually going to listen to this?
I think he will.
Do you know that when he came on, he admitted he hadn't been listening to anything?
I heard that.
Yeah.
I got on. I'm like, Will, you don't admit that when you're on. That's something off the mic that you talk about.
He doesn't know any better. That is awesome.
Well, he's a radio host. He should know better, right?
I know he should know better. I know. And you're such a natural at this now because what episode are you on in your Slice of Life podcast?
Oh, I'm embarrassed to say because this is what, 29?
29.
I think you're about 20 ahead of us. so we just did our Christmas episode, so we're not going to do anything again until the new year. But thanks for the cheap plug there. We're having fun with that. So
well, it's great. I enjoy it. I look forward to another one coming out. I haven't quite figured out in my head the routine. It's once a month, right?
Once a month.
Okay. But is it consistently exactly like 4 weeks apart? I haven't figured that out yet.
No.
It's just when you feel like it, right?
It's just when we feel like when Rich calls up and says, "Hey, I'm coming over Saturday morning." And I said, "Okay, we'll set it up and go from there." But we're having fun.
Good. All right. So speaking of fun,
Yes.
leadership challenges. That's what we choose to do, is help people with leadership challenges. So it is fun to us.
It is. We love this stuff, right?
So when I reached out to you, I wanted you to come back for another episode. People love you. I love you. But obviously, I really trust your experience, the knowledge that you bring to the table. And I thought that it would be helpful to unpack some of the challenges that your clients face. What are they bringing to the table? What are people talking about? And what are some of the solutions that you provide? What are some of the strategies that you talk clients through? And I can weigh in on that too, and vice versa. So I'd love to hear from you. Like, if you could identify, what would you say are the top 3 areas of concern, pain points that you get calls about?
Yeah, that's pretty easy because it's there really are a top 3, and then there's a whole bunch of other ones scattered in there. But
Okay.
the big ones, and this has been pretty consistent, I'd say, for most of this year.
Okay.
And they are, the number one is servant leadership. You know,
Okay.
how do we get back to putting mission before our own egos, or taking care of the people in our organization, the people that we're tasked to take care of in our positions, which is great, which I love, by the way. I love that we're getting back to that instead of, how do we make more money? How do we be the number one in our industry? It's how do we take care of people? Because I think people are starting to, the pendulum swung a little too far, I think, sometimes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think it was coming back a little bit, saying, okay, it's all about people. I hate the phrase, nothing personal, it's just business. Everything is personal, because everything we do in leadership involves other people, right? So that's probably number one, followed closely with trust. We live in a post-COVID world now, where trust is at an all-time low, and that's trust in our government, that's trust in the media, that's trust in our school system, that's trust in law enforcement, that's trust in businesses, big business.
Yeah.
Across the board, trust is just down. And so people are recognizing that and saying, okay, what do we do to reestablish trust, right, and keep it? And so that's probably number 2. And number 3 is, and this is a fun topic, because there's more and more information comes out, more studies are done all the time to lend to this. It's the generational gaps in the workplace, in the communication piece. How does a boomer get things done with the Gen Z? How do the millennials get along with the Gen X's? And plug and play all those in there. I mean, every different one. And I know millennials get a bad rap a lot of the time. You're a millennial, aren't you?
I see they do so much that I'm like, I don't even want to say that I am. I'm not like them.
Own it. Well, millennials, they're such a large group. They've actually split up into 2 separate groups. The ones that we, make fun of all the time. Then the other ones are out there saying, okay, we're just trying to do, we're trying to lose that stereotype, right? But,
I'm that one.
Yes, I know you are. But I love them. I love all the different groups, and each different group, in all honesty, has so much to bring to the table and so much to offer. I'm actually seeing businesses now where it's like a reverse mentoring.
Yeah.
And where they're putting, okay, we're putting a boomer with a millennial, and saying, okay, you know what? The millennials, we're going to teach you, so we're going to help you become a little more tech savvy and show you just how easy technology can be, and help you out. And a lot of the boomers, or the Gen Xers like myself, are saying, let's share with you. Here's the power of meeting someone in person. A lot of nothing will be lost in translation through text, and everything has its place. But at least they're talking with one another. And the biggest thing from that is showing one another, hey, every group has value to add, and it just takes a couple minutes to listen and receive that, to try to better yourself.
So true. Those are definitely 3 challenges that I hear about all the time too. But here's my trick. I'm not going to share what my 3 are until we unpack all of yours, because I'm going to make them keep listening to hear mine. Because what if I say my 3 and they're like, hers are lame. I'm not going to, stay and listen, because it doesn't resonate. So I'm going to trick everybody into listening to the whole episode.
You are a savvy podcaster. I love this.
Okay, so let's start with the first one. And I'm glad you chose servant leadership, because this just came up this morning with a client. It was actually, we were talking about leaders eat last.
Yes,
and of course,
Simon Sinek.
Yeah, of course, servant leadership is a big theme in that text. And I was sharing with them that I had been into an organization before when we looked at their mission statement. they called themselves servant leaders. And, I was curious as I looked at the keywords in their mission statement, what does that mean to you? So I had everybody write down what servant leadership meant to them. And it was actually quite comical because it was all over the place. People had no idea what it meant. It was just kind of like a buzzword that they had seen and they thought they should include, but had never really broken it down to make sure everybody was on the same page. They knew what it meant. They knew what it looked like in action, right?
Yep.
So it's one of those that I love talking to people about and seeing like, well, what's your perception of that? What does that really mean? So I'm going to ask you, what does it look like to be a servant leader? What does that mean to you?
Well, when you break down the true definition of the word of servant leadership, the true definition is you have to have that mindset and that heart to be to serve and be a leader, but to be a servant first. And I think that's what so many people miss. You hear leader, and leader just in our minds, it's just overwhelms everything else. Well, leader, they have to be the best person in the room, the smartest person in the room, the best personality. And that's not it. Servant leaders, they have to be willing and wanting to serve others first.
Yeah.
Right. And from that comes the leadership side of things. What can I do to enrich someone else's life? What can I do to enhance what they're doing? But it all comes down to serving first. And I love people get it backwards so many times, right? I think this is changing a lot too now. But people say, hey, the higher I climb the ladder, the more people are going to be reporting to me. That's success. It's the exact opposite. The higher you climb that ladder, the more you do and the more successful you become, those are more people that you are now serving.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the ones that get that and the ones that view it from that lens, they're the ones that are typically the most successful ones and the most effective leaders out there, because it goes, again, a Simon Sinek, start with why.
Yeah.
Right? Another one of his,
yeah.
why are you leading? Do you want to serve other people? Do you want to better the people around you? Or is it ego driven? Yeah, I like the title. Yeah, I like the attention. I like all the perks that come with this. Because you and I both know all those come and go. But the effect, the legacy that you can leave on other people's lives, that's why we want to serve and be servant leaders.
Yeah, that makes me think of the inward versus outward mindset in that book that you're still reading, Leadership and Self-Deception. Love that book. I highly recommend it. But in a part of that book, when they move from talking about a concept of inside the box, outside the box, they talk about an inward and an outward mindset. And that inward mindset, well, I'll just distinguish between the two. One of them, it's going to be pretty obvious. One of them, you see yourself as a person amongst other people. You're working together for collective results, right? The other, you see yourself as the person amongst objects, right? They are people that are there to just help you get the things done that you need done, right? To achieve your version of success. So I loved that with the kind of distinction between when you're inward focused, you're focused on just you and elevating yourself, and you're a person, the person among objects, versus outward, it's thinking of what can I do to come alongside them, and let's focus on the collective result. What can we achieve together? So that concept showed up in there, and I really love it.
Yeah, it's like that old saying, there's two types of people in the world. Two types of people that walk into a room. The first person walks in and says, "Here I am," right? And then there's the other type of person that walks in the room and says, "There you are." Right? It's kind of the same thing as what I'm hearing you say.
That's a great example. Okay, so you are invited in to talk about servant leadership. You've talked now about what it means to be a servant leader, but how do we take folks in organizations that have not been wired to do that, right?
Right.
What are some key strategies that we can share with the listeners that can help them to kind of shift their mindset to a place where they're a leader as a servant?
Yeah. I start off by asking people, hey, or the group, hey, where's your heart? Not to sound too, rainbows and unicorns or anything here, but where's your heart at on this? Do you love people? And it's amazing that people are, not really. And we're all there sometimes. And I say it's okay.
I have my days.
Yeah. Hey, people can be the worst sometimes. We all go through that, right? We're all going to rub each other wrong now and then. But at the end of the day, do we want to be around people? Do we want to help other people? Do we want to be helped by other people? Where is our heart on this?
Yeah.
And I ask them that sometimes if your heart's not there, ask yourself, why isn't it? Go back again to Simon Sinek, start with why again. Why am I have a hard time connecting with this person? So then I talk a lot about preconceived notions that we bring to the table, which is a big psychological thing that we bring with us sometimes. We think things because it's always been this way. One of the most common ones out there, for example, is if you go out and have a fender bender, and the person, what are you driving these days?
A Rogue.
A Rogue. So if we go out there and you run me off the road with your Rogue, and guess what? I jump on 81 to go home on I-81. Every time I see a Rogue, I'm dropping back because all of a sudden everybody that drives a Rogue is a maniac right behind the wheel. But we have these little nuances, or
like Maryland drivers.
Like Maryland, I'm not going to. You're setting
like
me up.
Like a whole state. I feel that way about a whole state.
Yes. But you do a lot more commuting than I do, so yes, that's justified. If somebody was rude to you in the past from your favorite fast food place, then you're like, well, you know what? They all must be rude. I'm not going to go there for a while. But we tend to generalize and to stereotype, and it's a very easy trap to fall into. So ask yourself, if I'm having a hard time connecting with this person in the workplace or wherever it may be, have they done something? And I always say too, hey, if your spidey sense is tingling, there could be a reason for it. Don't discredit that, but to just have that internal discussion. Is it something that they did to make me feel this way? It maybe is justified, or is it something that I'm bringing to the table that I shouldn't be? That's blocking my view of this person.
Yeah, I do feel like we specifically look for things that justify our actions.
Sure.
Right? Like, oh, well, I'm going to react this way, but it's their fault that I'm reacting this way. Yeah. Right? And even if you start to see a change in their behavior where you're seeing positive things, right, you're still holding that past against them and justifying your reaction to them. I see it happen all the time.
Yes.
I'm sure I do it all the time too. Try not to, right? No, those are really great tips. So for the people that honestly open up and say, I don't really love people.
Yeah.
So what do you do about that? They're still sitting in a leadership role. So they have this moment of discovery. I don't really like people. I don't understand my why or my purpose. Like, what would you tell them to do?
Well, then they have to take a long, hard look and say, am I in the right role? Am I in the right position? Maybe I need to be somewhere else where I don't deal with people as much. And that's okay. We're all wired differently, right? It's a matter of finding the right place where we can be the most effective and the most successful for ourselves and the organization. But for the other ones, I tell them, maybe peel back a couple layers of the onion. If this is your role and here's your objectives you need to get done, but you're just not a people person, take it back a bit. If you need to reach goal 1, 2, and 3, and you're going to need these people to get there, what can you do to help them, to help you, to help the company, reach this goal? So even if it's somebody where, hey, I don't like dealing with people, that's okay. We're all wired differently. But understand the importance of still doing this. It's still part of your job. By pouring into these folks, by helping them where you can, it's part of a bigger goal and a bigger mission here. And a lot of people, once they see the greater good or the bigger mission, it's a lot easier to buy into.
Oh yeah, right? You want to feel connected to it, like you have a purpose there, right?
Yes.
Yes. And as you were saying that, I was thinking of how people are very often promoted through an organization really based on technical skills, right? And their ability to do whatever the task may be. And they might end up landing in a leadership position they never really wanted.
Right.
And I've heard that so many times where someone's like, yeah, I'm in this role and I'm supposed to be a leader, but I'm only here because I was really good at that one thing. I wasn't good at managing people. I wasn't good at leading people. It had nothing to do with the people. It had to do with my knowledge of what we do here. Right?
Right.
And so if you find yourself, you've landed in that role and you are not really sure if you want to be there or not, I mean, it's worth stopping and really reflecting on, not just because it's uncomfortable though, because there are some people who will say, I just don't think I can be good at it. That's different than I don't like people, right?
Right.
Because I've had a lot of people, especially with disc styles, they might be a high S, steadiness, and they say, I don't ever think I can be an effective leader because I'm more of a follower as an S. I like being loyal to a leader. I like supporting the vision, right? Not necessarily being the one that drives it. So yeah, well, I'm used to having a lot of conversation around that, trying to figure out, well, how did you land there? And I mean, do you actually want to use this as an opportunity to grow your ability to influence others? Because you can do that. Or do we need to take a step back and see if we can get you in a role where you're able to use your knowledge and that skill set that everybody recognized in you?
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, too, people hear the term leader, and if they haven't been in this role, it can be intimidating.
Oh, yeah.
Well, my gosh, now I have to lead. I've never done this before. And,
Pressure.
the eyes are going to be on me now. It's more high-profile role. You're in that lightning rod place now where everything and anything can come back to you at this point. So it's more of a pressure when people haven't been there before, but I think what you and I teach is to embrace that. Here's some things you can do, and you're not on an island. It feels that way a lot of times in leadership, but if you're bringing up the people around you and you're establishing those around you, and you have a good trusted team that you can bounce things back and forth with, that helps you to be a better leader, obviously. Collaboration just by itself is huge right there. Find the people that you trust for your inner circle and help out with that. I don't think anybody can lead without a good inner circle.
Yeah, agreed. And I heard you say the word trust, which is a
Yes.
perfect segue into
Yeah.
number 2.
Such a
Look
good
at
podcast
that.
host. Look at this.
Look at that.
Man, it's like you've done this 29 times, right? Yeah, trust is another one too. People have a hard. People don't want to extend trust as much anymore. In general, most people are a little more guarded these days, saying, "Okay, well," but what the studies are showing now that the people that somebody has to be the first one to go, right? The ones that are extending trust first, they're finding that over 90% of the time that trust is reciprocated back to them. And some of the most effective and influential leaders right now are the ones that are putting that trust out there first. Hey, Sierra, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust you to wing this podcast here today, and I know it's going to be a great one, right? But that kind of stuff, it's when they put it out there, that establishes a bond, right? Just to say, hey, I'm trusting you with this, and people feel good about that. Okay, well, you've thought enough of me to trust me with this information or with this task. Well, by gosh, I'm going to make sure I do the best job I can for you, or I'm going to keep this hush-hush until we can go public, whatever it may be, right? It establishes a bond, and that builds trust right there. Just simple things like that, being the first one to establish trust with someone else goes a long way.
Well, what is the impact of not having a strong level of trust in an organization? What do you see as the impact, the result of having a lot of untrusted team members?
I feel like trust is the cornerstone. It's the foundation of any successful organization. Without it, nothing gets done. I mean, and it's everything, and it's nuanced throughout the entire mission, the entire organization. I mean, you have to be. If you don't trust your leadership, if you feel like they're taking advantage of you, or they're, I mean, you're not gonna give them 100%, right? You're probably be looking for something else if you don't trust them. Leadership, if you don't trust the folks that you've tasked with going out and doing the jobs that you've given them, and believe that you've given them what they need to get the job done, it's not going to work. You're going to start hoarding some of the work, right, and not delegating. If you don't trust your clients, or if your clients don't trust you, I mean, it's everywhere in there. And if any one piece of that is broken, the trust isn't there, it's chink in the armor, and it's going to start to spread.
Yeah, we have to build it back up. That reminds me, I just had a flashback of you sitting in this room right over here when we did the CFR certification, the Coaching for Respect.
Yes.
And we were trying to, we were role playing and all, but rebuilding relationships after trust had been broken, right?
Yes.
In an organization, and how you take them through that process.
Right.
I just thought about that.
Yeah, that was a
fun.
great class. That was a fun time.
That was fun. We're doing it again, by the way.
Are you really?
Yeah. I don't know if you'll be invited back as an actor or not. I
man.
haven't heard.
Great. Thanks a lot.
You were a great old curmudgeon.
I'll come back and audition, whatever I have to do.
No, you played it very well. You did. So what if someone's listening to this and they think, I do think that there is a lack of trust in our organization. One thing you can do is give trust, right?
Yeah.
But how does one open up the conversation about trust and openly start talking about it in an organization so you can start resolving the issue? What does that look like?
When you can, to be as transparent as possible. And I hate that because I feel like that's another buzzword these days. We talked about, transparency is key, right? It is. It is. Share everything you can. You and I have talked. I don't think there's such a thing as too much information, right? Give them all the information possible, right? To go forth and do, and don't hold anything back. Be willing to answer any of the questions that may come up out there. Encourage questions. I mean, the more people know, and again, it goes back to the why again. If people understand, here's why we're doing this, then what we're doing will make a lot more sense and a lot more buy-in, right? But it's bringing people in, putting them on the bus with you and saying, okay, we're all in this together. We're going to make this. We're going to be successful, but we're going to do it together. Everyone has a role, right? Like branches on the vine, right?
Yeah.
We all bring something unique to the table here. We all bring our skill set. And we're not going to be as successful as we could be if someone is holding back. So if you are, that's fine. You let us know why. What can we do to help get you where you need to be? What questions do we need to answer for you, right? And that goes from top down and bottom up as well.
Well, I feel like looking at the root cause of what caused the mistrust in the first place, like where did this actually break down within our organization? What could have caused it, and how can we go back and have a better understanding of how we can prevent that again in the future too.
Absolutely.
So that comes to mind. I was thinking about, and I think we mentioned it earlier, it's called The Trusted Leader.
Yes.
Highly recommend that book, those
Great
8
book.
pillars of trust. I really like the concept of looking at those 8 pillars and openly using that vocabulary with the organization and letting them identify which one of these pillars needs our attention.
Yes.
Right? You said it was foundational earlier. If one of those pillars is broken, trust, it's degrading, right?
Yes.
Across the board. So let's identify it so that we can focus in on how to build up that area. And I feel like people can be intentional and work at it together that way.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic book, and I know you and I both teach that course as well, right? But I love it because a lot of times people go into this, and if trust is broken, they may not realize it, and they didn't mean to break trust out of any sense of malice or ill will. It's just maybe a blind spot that they had, and they didn't think about that. So what's great about this book is the 8 different pillars. They break it up. You can look at that and say, okay, it's going to fall into one of these categories, which helps you visualize them as buckets to say, okay, you know what, I'm really good with being, conscientious about this, but I never thought about, so I could be breaking trust over here.
Yeah.
So the book really helps put things into perspective for anybody at any level, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. All right. For the sake of time,
Yes.
let's go ahead to number 3.
Yes.
So number 3, what was it?
Communications in the workplace between the different generations.
Okay.
So.
All right. You gave some good examples of that earlier. So let's talk a little bit more about, I'm curious, are you seeing this as a request across industries? It's just across the board, everybody's needing help with kind of understanding how to better work with someone who's different than them.
Yes. But what the beauty of that is people are, it's not just HR or high-level management saying we need someone to come in and talk to us about this.
Yeah.
They're getting this directly from the horse's mouth, saying, hey, we want to get along better. We want to have better relationships. And that's from Gen Z all the way up to boomers, everybody in between.
Yeah.
Everybody's saying, look, we understand there's a gap there. We don't see eye to eye on things. It's just hard for us to get along and make things work, but we want to be in a better place. What can we, give us the tools to get better with this. So that's the great part. When you go to someone, people are saying, hey, feed me. I want to know how we can do better here. It's great. And this is probably one of my most fun classes to teach too, because you get to make fun. It's equal opportunity. You get to make fun of
everybody.
Group, right? And then you tell them, just wait, we're getting to them in a second here.
Yeah.
And it helps everyone to open up a little bit and laugh at each other and laugh at themselves and understand, okay, it's okay to embrace the differences here.
Yeah.
But now, like we said earlier, and I won't, reiterate it too much, but here's where we can help each other. We're all bringing something to the table here. As long as we understand that, it goes a long way, right?
So I'm curious, not to put you on the spot or anything. What are some of like the key observations that people might state about different generations? Like, I know what people say about millennials. Like, we hear that one all the time. But
Right.
what are some of those things that you are identifying and making jokes about?
I'll just that boomers are the antiquated group. It's funny that we can try different things and say, okay, if you want to see if the stereotype is real, how about this? Who here has cash on them right now? Right? Who carries money on them right now?
Yeah.
And with all yours of hands, I'll be like, it's all the boomers, right? Nobody else carries, or who's carrying? I made fun of you for this. You did exception. Checkbook.
Yes,
Who carries,
he
I
made
can't
fun of
believe
me. I asked
Sierra
him to
still
write
has
a
a checkbook.
Oh, yeah. I
like,
just
even-
thought that was normal.
Even I'm a Gen Xer, and I'm like, can I just Venmo you the money here? No, paper check.
That blows my mind.
I know, but and it's just sharing some of the things that generations don't know about the other ones. You're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, my mind is blown. But you know what? Now that we know this makes more sense why they do this in the workplace, and they start making these little connections here. Okay, they're not just crazy, right? There's a method to the madness here.
Yes.
For example, one of my favorite ones that blows people's minds, and I still can't. It still is crazy to me. Millennials. I don't know if you fall into this or not. Millennials will jump to the end of a book to see how it ends, or they'll jump to they'll fast forward the end of a movie. Right, the biggest one.
That's messed up.
Thank you. Or the biggest one is video games are still huge with the millennials and the Gen Zs and stuff. They will buy a video game and then they will go get all the cheat codes and go to the very end to beat it, and then say, okay, this was kind of cool. Now I'll go back and do the whole story.
Oh, yeah, that's
But it's that
crazy.
and that relates to in the workplace.
Yes,
a lot
I
of
just said
times-
you're crazy. Sorry about that.
Selling out all your other millennial counterparts. But in the workplace,
Just lost a listener.
so in the work, but they hear that and they're like, okay, in the workplace, a lot of times these millennials or Gen Zs don't want to, in their opinion, waste time. Okay, Jay, you're a Gen Xer. Don't sit here and bore me and tell me how to do this job. Tell me what the end result you want is, and I'm going to go get it done for you.
Yeah.
And a lot of times what they're finding is, hey, they come back and they do it in a much more efficient and effective manner because we've given them the opportunity to do
and
that.
trusted
And
them.
trust, it all ties together. Thank you. Instead of saying, okay, step one, now step 1A, now do it in this order, right? You just say, here's the end result. Here's what we're looking for. Go do. And again, then what we're finding is they're like, hey, a lot of times we've found a better way to do this. And for the boomers or the Gen Xers like myself, you know what? It just saved a lot of time training this person how to do this, and we're both saving time and money on our end. So those things, again, I hate to be a one-trick pony, but again, that goes back to the why as well. Understanding why some of these nuances are what they are helps.
Yeah, I went to, actually, I'm pretty sure it was at one of the Maxwell Leadership Conferences that I went to. They had a presenter specifically on generational differences. And I thought it was really cool the way he laid out what they went through in their life, like what events took place during their generation that led to that behavior.
Yeah.
I think understanding that is really helpful for me, and like, well, there's a reason this person is this way. I just need to learn what it is. Like, how did this happen, right?
Exactly.
How did you get where you are?
Yeah.
But once you understand that, then it's like, oh, well, I can't blame them. That would make sense, right?
And just to piggyback off that, the family dynamic is a lot different. Looks a lot different from the boomers to what it is today, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest influencers out there.
Yeah, that's great. All right, those 3 challenges were great. Thanks for all the strategies.
Now I feel we need a drum roll. Now you're going to reveal yours.
I'm going to reveal
People stuck around
but like one at a time, right?
Drag it out.
I will. I'm not going to even summarize it all at the beginning.
This is a 4-hour podcast.
Not today. Although it is funny because now I have 2 competitions going on. We have folks that are getting jealous of other people who have been back more times than them.
Oh.
So, we've got to pay attention to how often we're inviting someone back. And, that's
gotcha.
their 3rd episode, but that's my 2nd episode. So we've got that going on.
Well, who has the record now? Is it Jen?
I honestly think Erica.
She's been on 3 times?
Is Erica tied with, not Jen, Jess?
Jess.
Yeah. Is Erica tied with Jess? They both have 2.
So I'm right.
You're
neck
right
and
there,
neck.
but there's a but.
Which one is coming back?
You know who's recording with me the day after Christmas?
Which
My
gotta be-
very, very dedicated director of details, Erica.
Oh.
Yes. So it was funny because when I said something to her about, like, we have a very specific episode we want to record, I said it that it needed to be her. And she said, oh, that's going to put me ahead of Jess. So there's that.
Look
and
at
there's
the buzz you've created for this.
Oh, yeah. And the who can have the longest episode.
Oh, my gosh.
And nobody's going to beat Jess. It's just not going to happen.
We're not going to beat her today. You know what? I think like for the 2 and 3 time members club, we need jackets or something we can wear now and be proud, right?
Cool.
Right, the 3-timers club. That's the goal to get to.
Pin on your sweater.
A Sierra learnership pin,
Oh,
right?
Yeah, man.
Oh wow.
Write that down.
You know who's going to be most jealous right now?
Who?
Seth.
Oh, I know.
Seth Thatcher.
Yeah, we got to have him back. Well, we should tell him we can't until he publishes another book. That's
right. Tell him it's as easy as that.
Yeah.
If he wants to come back, put a new book out.
Yeah. Okay. So mine. Number 1, what I would say is just effective communication, which ties into a lot of the things that you're talking about as well, honestly, because effectively communicating between generations, that's worth talking about. But this is kind of a different aspect. I would say people, well, I talk about DISC all the time, understanding the way we receive and interpret information and how it may be so different than everyone else on the team. I saw it this morning. It was so interesting to me. Let me just lay this out. So I created this scenario. I called it a leadership think tank, by the way. It was pretty cool.
Nice.
Like little sharks around the outside edge swimming. Like there was a whole theme. You would have been impressed.
I would.
And the concept was Winchester 2030. Okay, and talking about creating this future vision of being known as this model city for innovation, sustainability, community well-being, and my participants had to create a comprehensive plan for that, in a few hours. But anyway, totally randomly assigned the groups. I literally counted off 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 around the room. So 3 groups, 1 group found it to be the most stressful thing they've ever done in their lives. I had, one that really didn't even want to participate. He kind of threw his hands up in the air and was like, I don't even get it. I don't want to do this, right? And then in that same group, we had one that was extreme anxiety, head in the hands, so much pressure, right? We had that going on. We had gentlemen that were asking about ideas. Then when they were sharing them, they're like, well, you asked my opinion, and then getting frustrated with one another. So it was just this craziness going on in this group, right? I go to the next group, and one of the guys said, this is the most fun. I love this activity, right? And they were taking it and running with it, and we're so excited, okay? And then third group, they drilled down into so much detail that they lost the big picture, and it got time to is your presentation ready? They hadn't pulled back and looked at the big picture. So we did this whole, after they did their presentations, reflection on how well did you work with your teammates, right? And it was so interesting because they said they were able to observe their own flaws and how they chose to approach the situation, right? But the one group, they were all anxious because they were high SCs. So they're people pleasers. They wanted to be able to follow through on the task as assigned. They didn't feel like they'd be able to give it their best in that amount of time. So they were just functioning out of this place of stress, right? The team that absolutely loved it, they were high eyes. They were super innovative, Yeah, you're smiling because you are one. I saw that. Anyway, they're creative. They're innovative. Yes, I'm describing you. They were excited to chat with other people. And so they were the ones that said, I enjoy this. And the others thought they were insane. Yeah. They're something is wrong with you. How could we just did the same task and you're excited and I am done with this day, right?
Yeah.
And then the other group, they admittedly said that all three ladies ended up being very high C, very analytical, detail oriented, and they had trouble pulling back. So I would come over and I would say, okay, let's pull back for a second and let's talk about what the ultimate goal was here. Like, let's do some backwards planning. And they said they appreciated that because they needed another style to come in and kind of give that direction. And then they took it and ran with it. So it was just like this perfect example of how we end up in these teams with people all the time. We end up working alongside someone that can be wired so differently or exactly the same, right? And what's that piece that's missing? And so I love supporting organizations with figuring out where are you, where are the strengths, what are those pieces,
Right.
And how do we better understand other people's needs so that we can support them in that moment and give them what they need to be successful.
Yeah.
So that's my exciting story from today.
I love it. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
With I don't think I was going to say take disc out of it. I don't think you can do that. With
I'll
with
take
this.
it out.
Do you find that the different people in the groups does one more I guess dominating personality influence the other ones in the group? Like if people are like, oh, cringing, we have to do this, but one of the guys is like, my gosh, is this fun or what? Does he bring people around?
Yes, super
Okay.
influential on the rest of the group.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Nice.
definitely does have an impact. Well, that's why we always want to have one of those people amongst us, right?
That's
Like the
right,
team
that's right.
cheerleader, hope, optimism.
Yes.
That's you.
Right.
You are that person for our
Then have
wolf
other
pack.
people go do all the hard work then.
Yeah.
Right. I'll cheer you on to get us what we need to get.
Yes, yes. So anyway, people come to me with the challenge of, I just feel like my team's not hearing what I'm saying, or we're not on the same page and I can't figure out why. And the transformation that can take place when you create a common language and they can talk about, well, here's how I process information, and this is what I need. I need people to follow up in writing because that is the way that I look back and I check myself. So if we're just having a conversation and I don't have anything to write with, half of this is gone, right? People can express their needs, or I need to see you in person at least once a week. Like, we need our time together. People finally have the confidence to share their needs when it comes to communication when you kind of open that door, when
Yeah.
you're transparent
Yes.
about what those needs are. And you start thinking about other people's needs and not just your own. I don't just assume that everybody like me wants to have a written plan before a podcast.
Right.
Jay's different, so I'm just going to throw that out the window. It's
I appreciate that
just Jay.
today.
It's just Jay. We're just going to chat.
And by the way, and you're doing great winging it. And no one would ever,
thanks.
if I hadn't thrown you under the bus to start off the podcast, no one would ever have any clue that we're just winging this whole
Well,
thing.
that's good to know. That's good to know. Thank you. All right, so that was challenge number 1. Anything else about communication that you want to mention before we go to the next one?
I think it's synonymous with leadership.
Yeah.
It is clutch, and I think I love the phrase you just used, giving people the confidence to communicate, because that's a big part of it too. And this stems from, I think, when we're kids in grade school. But a lot of times we're
Grade school.
grade
He
school.
just said grade school.
Am I showing out? I'm a Gen X now, calling it grade school.
That's
Oh,
cute.
but now I don't know what I was going to say about it.
Sorry.
No.
I'm terrible.
But it goes back to when we're little kids, we're scared to say something that's going to be made fun of, or something that's not going to be received well, or maybe I don't have all the facts. But that's why I love the phrase when you train people up to give them the confidence to communicate effectively. And part of that is listening, and receiving the information as well. That's a lot of people would argue that's the bigger part of communication.
Yes,
right?
yes. And giving people time as well. And I shared this in the group this morning. The very first thing we did together, I had a question I had them reflect on, but I had them do a written response on a Post-it. And I'm sure they're like, we're just going to throw that away. Like, what's the point? We have the people in the room, they're like, I'm not going to write that down. That's pointless, right?
Right.
But I shared with them the reason that I did that is if I asked this question of everyone in the room and I called on a couple of people to answer, one, there are going to be people who haven't had time to formulate their thoughts yet. And so I'm putting them on the spot and they're super uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
And so they're going to shut down, and all they're focused on is she going to call on me, right?
Right.
And so I always think about who's in the room
Yeah.
and who might need that wait time, because I gave them all the time, and then I could call on anyone because I saw they all had something written down and something of value to add to the conversation. So just getting people to start thinking like that, not just, oh, I would be able to answer that on the spot because I'm Jay,
Yeah.
right? Versus me, like I need a few minutes.
That's right.
And I used to not speak up in school, by the way, because I was the one that needed time, and people that had this like crazy processing speed and immediately knew the answer or what they wanted to say, I felt like I was miles behind them, right?
Yeah.
And so I think I really care about giving people that space.
That's good. I think I remember putting you on the spot at the Coaching for Respect.
You did. I was ready to be ill.
Mm-hmm. I can see the look on your face.
Yeah.
I think you gave me a rude gesture behind the instructor's back there. Maybe I'm misremembering that.
Yeah, that might have happened.
But no, to piggyback off what you're talking about, I start every one of my training sessions with letting people know, hey, I'm glad they're there. I love leadership sessions like this. I love delivering them. I love being where they are at that point. I love being on the other side of the aisle and receiving them. And I start this off every time. I tell them every time, look, there's only one thing that I do not like, that I actually despise about some leadership classes, and that's when the instructor decides to start calling on people just out of the blue, right? For me, that I would not want to be that person, right? I want to have, let's be honest, if it's a 4-hour session, these people won't need to have permission to daydream or zone out now and then, right? The entire time.
Yeah.
So I tell them, look, I said, my ironclad promise to you, for as long as we're together, I will not call on anybody that doesn't have their hand up or that doesn't want to talk. So if we happen to make eye contact, don't bend over and pretend to tie your shoe or anything. I said, I will not call on you. But then I say, on the other side of that, if you just want to sit back and glean information here today, please do, and be relaxed.
Yeah.
On the other side of that coin, I think it's egotistical for anybody that does what we do to stand up there and think you're going to take all the information just from what we have to share. We learn so much more when everybody shares their real world scenarios.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
We glean so much more, and we're like, hey, that sounds great on the PowerPoint slide, Jay, but in the real world, let's talk about this. That's where the rubber meets the road. Those are the best conversations to possibly have. But I've gotten literal feedback on this. I think it's one of the best things that I do is just, give them permission to relax during this and absorb what we're going to talk about. Don't be on edge that you're going to be called on at any given time. And you see people start to open up then after that too.
You can see them relax on the spot. Is that how you get your perfect ratings?
Only one person's gotten a perfect rating in this room, and it is not me. So, but I love how you always have a chance to get that in, get that dig in there.
It just popped into my head, and I felt like I had to say it.
Yes. Sierra has gotten the perfect rating that
Don't even say it, Jay.
I'm still chasing that elusive 5-star.
I'm so competitive. I
wouldn't have known that.
It's just so fun.
You're not just competitive, but now you're trying to create more competition. Who can be on your podcast the most? You're pitting Jess and Eric and myself and everybody against each other.
I didn't do that on purpose.
Like
they did it, but now I love it.
You're right. Now you get more people saying, "Hey, can I come back and be on this podcast?" Creating supply and demand. You're good.
Oh yeah. No, you guys are doing a really good job. And I told Matt this the other day of like putting your analytics out there. We're here now, like this many downloads, this, that, and the other. Like I have not been putting that out there. I don't even know who's listening unless I get a text and they say, I listened to blah, 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 and this was my takeaway, a great episode, right? Unless I hear from someone, I'm like, I don't even really pay attention to it. So good job with keeping up with that.
Analytics are
Maybe
fun.
It's rich too, though.
It is. It's all. I wish I could take credit.
Analytics are fun, says the high eye.
Yeah, those analytics are fun. No other analytics.
Okay. Challenge number 2. Actually, it's so funny. Before we started, we identified what our challenges were going to be. And I keep like in my head, I'm like, no, I'm going to switch that one. I like another one better. And then I'm like, no, I'm going to have 4 instead of 3. And then I'm like, no, I can't do that either. It's so funny how I can have like 8 conversations in here going on while we're talking.
Yes.
So number 2, I'm going to keep the same. I think I get a lot of organizations reaching out where they say, I just feel like I don't have the right people in the right seats, right? And that goes back to what we said earlier about maybe people are moving up through the organization and not really assessing how well the responsibilities associated with their role align with their strengths, right?
Right.
And so I spend a lot of time with them trying to really go through identifying their own strengths, figuring out, okay, well, let's look at what responsibilities are on your plate. Like, what's your area of genius, right? Your area of expertise. What would it look like if you could spend more time doing this? What would you take off your plate? And then it's so funny because I did that with a team recently up in Chambersburg. And I said, okay, you want to take that off your plate? Does anybody here really like that? And this other guy's like, yeah, I'll do that. I like that part, right? And you see them start to like share this responsibility and truly collaborate. So everybody's doing what they love.
Yeah.
There's always going to be something that no one loves, right?
Right.
It's going to come up. But still, I feel like so often people can be pushed out of an organization because they're sitting in the wrong seat and they've lost their passion and it doesn't seem to be a good fit. But I feel like if leaders sit down and have conversations with those people and get them back to their why and their strengths, you can figure out a way to take that person who has the shared values and you really want there and get them in a place where they're thriving.
Yeah.
So that I enjoy working through that challenge.
Yeah, no, and it's a big challenge. It's a real challenge. I see that a lot too, where I talk to different companies and businesses, and they say, "Hey, we're trying to do the right thing by promoting from within, right, and building people up." But what happens too often, and a lot of times, by the time I get in there, or maybe you've seen it too, it's too late at this point.
Yeah.
They say, "Hey, we've promoted this person to this new role, but maybe they haven't given this person all the skills or everything they need to do a good job there." And instead of following back up with that, there's that lack of communication that you talked about. No one's talking to each other about this. And typically, the person ends up quitting that was just promoted.
Yeah.
And they have to start from scratch again. Instead of just saying, okay, what can we do to help you? Or like you said, maybe you're not in the right position, or maybe we give you take these responsibilities away and give you these other ones. And again, just...
Yeah. While you were saying that, I was thinking about how often I meet with people and they're so frustrated because they don't even know what's truly expected of them because they've taken on all of these different things. They don't even know what their real role is, right? And so it's unbelievable the number of organizations that don't have a job description for a role.
Yeah.
Like, hiring you for a role, saying here's your title, and not handing you a description of your responsibilities and this is what you're expected to do, like that blows my mind.
Right.
That it's just so unclear, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's important too for people to understand, even if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't have any job descriptions, it's okay, but don't feel like you have to take that all on yourself. I think it's fun to have the individuals write their current, right? Create the job description. Yes. What are you doing right now? You actually get to see where what they're doing is or is not in alignment with what you've been expecting of them. Right. And then finally it's like, oh, well, they're frustrating me because they didn't even know I wanted them to do that. It's not on their list.
Yeah. It's just back to communication again.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I think the last studies showed that over 90% of people in corporate America couldn't tell you what their business's mission statement was or their vision is off the top of their head. That should be something that, and again, that's shame on the business. That should be something that should be really ingrained in people, because a lot of times we're like, I don't know what decision to make here. I'm not sure what to do. Well, a lot of times that should be your North Star. You look back to the mission statement. Most times that'll help you make the decision you need to make, right? Or at least ask somebody. About it.
And those need to be revised. You're not sitting on a 20-year-old vision.
Do you know anybody that can help with that?
I might. I might.
There's your cheap plug.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that. Can you tell that Jay has a headache, by the way, guys? Because he sounds all pitiful before the episode, and then Matt says he's recording, and he comes with all of this energy and enthusiasm. I'm like, where did that come from? Did your headache go away, or are you just that good?
So now we're telling each other, because
Yes.
Sierra has a headache too, by the way. We
We're both in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
This is the most painful episode yet.
Yes.
That's funny. No, I did. But I have to point it out because you can tell how much you love this because you're in pain and a little miserable, but you make it look so fun and easy. So
it is
anyway,
fun. It is fun.
I love it. Okay. My third one is the one I keep going back and forth on.
Okay.
So I know I originally said managing change.
Right.
Okay.
I feel like we're not going to get that now.
Well, here's the thing. So I knew that you kind of wanted me to stick with that one, but I also, we either have to give that one up or I get to have 4.
Okay, either one. Your show, you make the rules here. Remember, we're winging it. There's no rules here.
We're winging it. Okay, we'll briefly do both and then give ourselves some relief.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, so for managing change, I'm actually going to connect it a little bit back to, oh my gosh, you're going to get mad at me, DISC.
Shocker.
And transparency, right?
Yes.
Anytime you're dealing with a change, keep people informed. Like, just make sure that they know that it's coming and what to expect. But the reason I say DISC is the people who are of a style in which change is extra difficult because they like to know and have the stability of like routines and this is the way it's always been done and should always be done, right? That's comfortable for them. They need to know they're going to have the support that they need throughout the change, right? They need to know the why behind the change. They need more time.
Right.
So I feel like the biggest thing that I want to share about this is the moment that you know a change is coming down the pike, inform people, get feedback from them, see how they're responding to the change.
Yep.
Understand that not everybody's going to be excited about it, and there are actually kind of different phases that people might go through and how they react to the change, right?
Yeah.
And they might start off like, absolutely not. I'm not going to be a part of this. I'll leave if you do this thing.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like the 6 stages of the 5 or 6 stages of grief. There are actually 6 stages for organizational change.
Yes, exactly. And I'm not going to name them.
Me neither.
Yeah, I'm winging it today, remember? I don't have that pulled up. So anyway, just acknowledging that they might start there, but they're not necessarily going to end feeling that way, right? And so support them where they are and help to figure out why they're pushing back on the change. What is it? Is it the lack of security? Is it that you haven't given the why? It's they don't know the impact that it's going to have on the organization. Like, what is it about the change, right? So I think that's the biggest thing I wanted to cover. That's why I'm saying, like, we don't have to spend a ton of time on it. But what are your thoughts?
That's big, and you're right. It's get in front of that and let them know that, hey, get the buy-in early before the change actually happens.
Yes,
so that
please.
they're, and if my gosh, hopefully get excited for the change.
Yeah.
And what I tell people, too, is, I mean, it has such a negative connotation to it. It's the word change, right? Because we get somewhat comfortable in where we are. You can argue, do we ever really have control, right, in the word? But people they get in their comfort zone, and you hear change, you're a little excited about that, not in a good way, right? But what I remind people is change is the only thing that's constant.
Yeah.
Yes, this change is coming, but guess what? It's going to change again, and it's going to change after that.
Yeah.
Right, and you need to embrace this, and I mean, which lens are you going to look at it through? You may come out better than you were before. You may be in a position to help the company and maybe establish some new skill sets and do something you hadn't thought about. I always, real quick, get the quick Reader's Digest version. I always share the story when I worked
I'm only in pain.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you. When I worked at Freddie Mac in McLean, Virginia, a lifetime ago, they brought in consultants and they said, we all, I mean, there was like blocks and blocks of buildings set up there, just all open space and all cubicles. It was just cubicle.
Oh, wow.
I mean, for football fields length of open space with your little cubicles, right?
Wow. Okay.
So consultants came in one day and they said, you know what's really going to help with communication? Tear down all the walls in the cubes. So it would honestly, Sarah, be like as close as you and I are sitting right now.
Yeah.
Imagine that 8 straight hours. You and I on the phone, trying to do our business, emails, everything.
Wow.
And then there's also people right here next to us. I mean, everybody, you're just surrounded, staring at everybody.
So distracted.
They said, it'll be so much easier for communication, blah, blah, blah. So they did that. And what happened was we left on We left on a Friday, came back Monday, all the walls were taken down. So he came back, and it cost like, I won't share, it was astronomical.
And they
price to do
lost
this.
half of their employees.
Right. No, but productivity went down because people would just start talking or hey, Siri, yell to that guy over there. I need his attention. And then you could tell the people that hated each other because there were still the frames but no walls. People would hang just a calendar right between them so you couldn't see them. So it was you could tell who didn't get along. This lasted a couple months, and it was such a horrible project that we went home on a Friday, came back on another Monday, and all the walls were back up again. And I share that story to say, change is constant.
Yes.
Things will continue to change. Best thing we can do is embrace it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. That's a great example. Those poor consultants.
Yes. We had different words for them. We didn't feel sorry for them.
You were talking about change, and I was thinking, seems so off topic, but in my head it connects. I was at lunch with Darkus a few weeks ago, right before her birthday, and she was talking about how First Bank is rolling out a whole new mobile platform.
Yes. I got locked out yesterday from it.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
But their customer service was fantastic. I got right back in.
So funny.
Let me give First Bank their flowers. They did a great job.
Yes. Well, their customer service is great. I call all the time for stuff. Taylor. This is a shout out to Taylor. She often answers my calls. I've never seen you in person, but you're wonderful. Anyway, she was talking about how she was concerned that users were going to be upset because they weren't notified quickly enough and felt like they had enough time to wrap their head around it. Well, here's the difference. And I thought about this immediately when she said it. To me, I'm like, no big deal. Like, if you guys change the platform and I go on and if things are just moved around, I'll learn the new way. It's like not a big deal. It's an upgrade. It's got new features. That's going to be fun. If I can't get in, I'm going to call customer service. So in my mind, there was like a solution for every issue. Right. But I know like old folks like yourself
yeah,
might not be very excited about a tech change.
Right. Why isn't my password working?
Yes.
Right.
I just immediately pictured different people's responses to that change.
Yeah.
Like I'm used to, this is what it looks like when I get in.
Yeah.
Right. So applying that to the organization, thinking about change, not just within, but how the changes that you're making are impacting your customers, your clients, and considering how you can prepare them for the change.
Yes. And the First Bank had done a great job saying, if you're having issues, go here and walk you through it.
But a good email.
But being the Gen Xer I am, I'm like, no, customer service, I'm calling.
Yeah.
I needed someone to talk me off the ledge.
You're like, what
no.
email?
I was like, I'm not going to do email. I had to call and talk to a customer service rep, and of course I called them. They go, like, you are caller number 23.
No,
right?
I'm always number one.
I
just
got
call
Taylor.
at the right
give
time.
me Taylor's private number here so I can get that. No, First Bank did a great job getting me through it.
First Bank's amazing.
An upgrade.
It is. So anyway, managing change. And here's the bonus.
All right.
And I don't think anybody's going to be surprised by this one. But it's true. I constantly get people reaching out for time management and productivity.
Yes.
Just because we are so overwhelmed with the amount of, oh my gosh, tasks, the amount of information in our heads, the things that we keep adding to our schedules. It seems like so much. And how do I fit it all in?
Yeah.
So beyond just leading other people, how do I lead myself effectively?
Yeah.
How do I use my time effectively so I can get all these things done? That's something I get all the time.
But you do a great job with that too. And I think in our line of work, it's crucial. If you and I aren't leading ourselves well, it's very hypocritical for us to go out and run a training session.
Yeah, so you need to get it together, Jay.
I know. I can hear that I'm losing clients as we speak here.
It's okay. I'll send you some.
Thanks. You got so much going on. Yeah. These 5-star reviews.
I just love you.
But no, it's but you're right. You do a great job with that, with how squared away you are with that. I told you I just adopted. I think we talked. I just adopted a new. I'm a fly by the seat of my pants. I see something. Oh, this looks cool. I'll try this for a while.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing right now, and it's working for me, right? Because I think it has to match your lifestyle, your personality. Mine is called the 3 3s. Did I share this with you?
I don't don't think so, but when you said adopt today, I was waiting on a dog.
Oh, I wish. I'd love to get another dog, but two's
Okay.
not enough.
The three threes?
Yeah, it's. I think that's what it was called. It's picked each day, right? Each day when I plan my day out. What my biggest rock basically.
Yeah.
One thing what am I going to spend 3 hours on today? I'm going to spend 3
Okay.
hours on one thing.
Whew,
And
that's
then-
a lot of time.
It is a lot of time, right? But 3 hours on something big.
Okay.
For me, it could be writing or something like that, which, if I don't block that time, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Then what are 3 things that need to get done today? Invoices, proposals, whatever, putting together a new session like we
Yeah.
do. And so what 3 things we're going to get done there. And then finally, what are the other 3 things non-work related that are going to get done? Bible study, work out, read a book, whatever it may be. Spend more. You take your spouse out for something. But 3 hours, and then the 3 list, and the other 3 list, and it's working for me. I love it.
I love that it's working for you. I'm
Yes.
going to give you some feedback.
That's
on
your way
it.
of saying I really don't like this. I'm glad that's working for you.
No, it's that I know it won't for a lot of my clients because I do a big 3, just 1 3. Okay. What are the 3 things you absolutely have to achieve today in order to make progress towards your goals, right?
Okay.
And they have trouble getting all 3 done. So I'm just thinking we have overachievers that
Yes.
would see I can spend 3 hours on this and do these 3 things and these 3 things. That's like technically 7 things.
Right.
That's overwhelming to a lot of people. So for the people who have wrapped their head around properly prioritizing and feel like you have a really good system in place for your schedule, I think that's great.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
But I think for the people who are just getting started, just start with 3.
Yeah, that
Right?
makes sense.
Just start with what are the 3 things that I have to do. Because everything beyond that is like bonus, right?
Yeah.
In my mind. Like I
Yes.
have a list of other tasks beyond that. If I get these 3 done, perfect. My day is over.
Yes.
But those 3 things are not like things that are already going to occur like a scheduled meeting. They have to be actual work getting done.
Right. Yeah.
So, some people cheat.
Oh, well.
So they're like, I have a big presentation tomorrow, and they put as
Check.
one of their big 3 presentation. I'm like, that's occurring anyway. We're talking about things outside of scheduled appointments, right?
Yeah.
What 3 things are you doing? So I think it's awesome that you have been able to take that and implement it, and that it's working for you.
Yeah.
That's
And,
great.
and going back to communication, what you're talking about, we were making a joke about, well, I'm going to cheat and use this presentation as one of mine. But a lot of times people might not know that.
Yeah.
Right? And it's that communication piece saying, okay, yes, but it's also, it really doesn't count here. Let's
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
more efficient with your time management. So I love that you do that. I remember one of the first times you and I started hanging out. We met at West Oaks. I don't know if you remember this
Okay.
night outside, and you got
My full focus planner.
I was like, what is going on here? I was like, my gosh, this lady is squared away. So see, I've never forgotten that.
Wow, that really stuck with you.
Yeah, it did.
That's
did.
what, so my retreat that you know about,
Yes,
you have to at this point. It's all around, right?
it's the big buzz.
Day 3 of the retreat is teaching people how to use that system.
Okay.
And so after they create basically their vision for the next year of their life, right? In days 1 and 2, then 3, we're taking it and we're putting it into that planner system. That's like their accountability for the year.
Nice.
So anyway, that's how, yes, I love it so much. And I try to get everybody to convert to using it. Even, by the way, they've beta tested a digital version of it. So for my digital folks,
Ooh. Okay.
that hopefully very soon it will be released, and they've very well mastered kind of creating a PDF format that can go on any type of device.
Oh, perfect.
Where you can click and it's all linked in tabs and you can get to what you need to so quickly. So
Well, you used to
There
make fun of
are
me. I only gave it up like a year ago. I still had the old Franklin Covey, the Frank, right? Everything handwritten in
Yeah.
there, but the my eyesight got so bad it was hard for me to draw these little lines in there. So
you have to use a device so you can zoom in.
that's what I need. That's why you said digital. I'm like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. I can do that.
Actually, I talk about the Remarkable, which is like a great productivity
Yeah,
tool.
you turned me on to it.
Yeah. So one of my friends has she found a template online for a planner system she liked. She downloaded it, put it on her Remarkable, and she has it set up on there, and her whole planner's on her Remarkable.
Oh, wow.
So there you go. How about that?
I gotta jump in now. Now my 3 threes seems antiquated, right?
You can put your 3 threes in your Remarkable.
That's true. Does Remarkable sponsor this podcast?
They should.
They should.
You know what?
Listen up, Remarkable. You're missing a golden opportunity here.
They don't know how many clients I've sent them.
There you go.
Seriously, they don't. I should be like an affiliate or something. I don't think they have that brand program. But I have sold that so many times. Same like Full Focus, but I am actually like through them. So.
That's going to be. I feel like that's going to be your first sponsor of 2025. Remarkable.
Okay, let's speak it into existence.
I just did.
Okay. All right. No, it's exciting. So, anything else related to time management, productivity? Any other tips popping in?
No, probably not the best guy to give tips on that.
I was going to say, I could go all day on that, so we're going to stop. No, this has been great. Unpacking these pain points that we hear all the time. I will say for our listeners, if they have a specific pain point that they have that they would like to hear us discuss on an episode, I'd love for them to submit it. I want to hear from people. Do people message you guys for your podcast? Do you hear from real humans?
Now and then, because Rich does such a good job of keeping social media interactive, right?
He is good at that.
So we get that going. But I really want people to reach back out and give their pain points, because that means I can get back for my third podcast appearance.
It's the only way Jay will be back.
Yes, please flood Sierra's inbox with pain points, and we'll come back and talk about these.
The listeners are going to get frustrated because I feel like I threaten them in almost every episode. Like, I'm not going to do this if you don't do this. In the last episode, so Damon Albert from Camp Esri, it released today, by the way.
Oh, I haven't listened to it yet. I will tonight.
So, we talked a little bit about leadership. It was great to dig into Camp Esri as a whole. But I actually threatened to not ever do a podcast episode again unless they helped us get to the top 100, which you were a sponsor of, by the way. So thanks again for that.
But
I was like, we're at 50. We need to get to 100. So 50 of you, come on, or I'm not recording again. I tried.
Oh, the threats. I love it here. It's hardcore.
I know. All right. So we always end with a branching out challenge. And I'm going to do things out of order. We're going to do the branching out challenge related to our pain points. And then I want you to talk about your book.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. So for the challenge, based off of the topics we spoke about today, is there something in mind that you have in mind that you would like to challenge our listeners to do, a change they could make that might help them become a little more effective, whether it's as a servant leader, whether it's being a more effective communicator or building trust, any of the things we discussed? What's that number one thing you hope they take away?
Well, is it a challenge or a takeaway?
Well, it's a challenge.
Okay, I got
so like a key point that you expect them to implement.
Gotcha. Here's one that I leave some of. It depends on the group how we finish things. This sounds super easy, but sadly, be surprised how hard it is. Hard for me too. Go one day without saying one negative thing about somebody else, even like tongue in cheek or a joke or something like that. You'd be amazed at how often your mind goes to places. Well, I don't like the way this person did this, or I don't like the way they said that, or can you believe they're doing? Most of our minds, we think that way, and a lot of us act on that. We have a good friend, we're like, can you believe they did this? Just go one day without saying one thing negative about anybody, and you'll really understand, I have a lot of negative thoughts throughout the day, and it becomes habitual. If you can say, okay, now maybe I feel pretty good about not saying anything bad today, maybe try the second day, and over time it will become habitual, and you'll start seeing people in a more positive lens than a negative lens.
But
it's amazing how often, again, we just say, well, I'm just blowing off steam talking about this person, but just.
Does that mean I can't do that with you anymore?
Well, no.
Now I feel like you'll be judging me.
No.
Like, today's not that day, Jay.
No.
I just did it for 2 days in a row.
That's right. Now I can talk about anybody I want to, right? No, we just talk about Seth and Will.
Yeah, there we
right?
go. There we
That's
go.
fair game.
No, I love that challenge. Thank
Yeah,
you for
yeah.
sharing that.
One
I
day,
think
just
that'll be
try it and
helpful.
see how it goes.
And let us know how it goes.
Yes,
Because that's how we
please.
know you exist. Okay, tell them about the book because there's been a change in your life since you were last here.
Yes, so thank you. I have a brand new book out. This one is, I've been working on it for on and off for a better part of a decade now. It's called Bible Stories That Scared the Hell Out of Me.
I love the title.
And each chapter, you can break it down. Each chapter is a standalone story, but a story from the Bible that scared me as a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now when I read it today, it takes on a whole different meaning. Being an adult, maybe a little bit of a more mature Christian, reading, here's why this is in the Bible, not just to scare you, but there's really a deeper rooted meaning to these.
Yeah.
So I like to dive into that because there's so many great devotionals out there and books that support the Bible, and they're all fantastic. But a lot of them talk about the same stories, and I'm like, well, these are stories that we never covered in Sunday school. These are some.
Yeah.
These are some. A lot of them. They're
Talking
just like
donkey? Like
talking
where,
donkey.
I never knew there was a talking donkey.
It's amazing how many people said, oh, did you steal this from Shrek? I'm like, no, dude, this is in the Bible, right? The talking donkey, and I'm scared to death of snakes. So there's two different snake. The one where God told Moses to throw his staff down and turn into a snake.
Yeah.
Now pick it up by its tail, which we all know that's the last place to pick up a snake. And then I put reflection questions in there. Like for me, do I say I'm a man of faith?
Yeah.
But if that were to happen, if God were to say, pick up that snake by its tail, when everything says he's going to bite you, could I? I don't know. These are things that
I believe in you. I think
thank
you could.
Thank you.
I think you could.
So those are the fun things. Just those stories in the Bible that I don't think get the love they should get. That I just wanted to dive a little deeper in that. And
it's great.
Oh, thank you.
I'm
You're
enjoying
reading
it.
right?
I am. I keep it on my nightstand. And I think the addition of those discussion questions, the reflection questions at the end of each chapter is really helpful. I am a reflective person in general, and I try to take things that I read to the next level and keep reflecting. And like you gave us the tools to do the reflecting and get that process started. You know what I'm saying? Like you already put the thought into creating the questions that are going to help us like arrive at, but how do I apply this to my life?
Right, exactly, and I've tried to be pretty clear in there too. Because I mean, the Bible is it's living. It's the living Word. It's going to affect us all a little differently, right?
Yeah.
So those are my takeaways from this Bible. Within the discussion questions, I mean, everybody's going to have different takeaways, and I hope they glean something different out there that helps them wherever they are in their stage of life right now. Yeah, I could go back and probably write this book again in 10 years and have completely different perspectives on all of these stories.
That's what happens with the Bible.
Yeah, and that's why it's just such a wonderful book. So I just wanted to do something out there. And again, for folks, too, that aren't believers, it's a great book. Just pick it up and check it out. And I even put my contact information there. The publisher told me not to do that. But if anybody wants to discuss the Bible with me, I'd be more than happy to.
That is so cool.
Yep.
I love that. It's been very successful thus far.
It has.
I hear you're setting records.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. So where do people find it?
It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Here locally, it's at Solenberger's. I actually just got a text from Rich while we were talking. I think he just said...
Were you reading while we were talking?
They're down... No. I just, it popped up. They're down to one copy left of the book, so I have to get some more in there. And I just dropped them off. So this is great. So thank you to everyone that's doing that. It's also at the Winchester Book Gallery. So, thank you to everyone out there that's supporting the cause. And here locally, we're running this local thing, too, where anybody that takes a photo of themselves holding up the book and tags me in it on Facebook, I'm donating $1 for every photo to the Winchester Rescue Mission. And Rich Weller has come along, and he's also matched that. So anybody that wants to tag J.W. Foreman on Facebook and put a picture of yourself holding the book, $2 will go to the Winchester Rescue Mission from now until the end of the year.
I love it. I'm so glad you shared that. That's awesome. And maybe we can get you as many followers as Rich.
Wow, that's a tall order.
With this book, I think it's become possible.
Yeah, you know what? Yes, we're going to do it.
Okay,
we're going to do it.
That's the goal.
I'm going to
2025 goal, 120,000?
120,000 followers, and you're going to get Remarkable as your sponsor.
Yes. All right, we just set goals together.
I love it. We'll write them down next, right?
Yes, you have to write them down. You have to. You are 47% more likely to achieve them by writing them down.
I love it. I love
There
how
you
much
go.
we geek out about leadership and goal setting. This is great.
Yes. All right. Thank you for being here, especially as you were in pain. No, seriously. Like you could have just totally left me and said, fend for yourself, figure out an episode, record it.
But this is
Thank
how
you.
gracious Sierra is. She gave me the option. She's like, just go. I can do one by myself. So, but no, I wasn't going to do that too. This was
Thank you.
this was fun. I always enjoy being in here. I look forward to coming back for my third, fourth, and fifth
I see.
times.
You just like slip it in there.
Yes,
Slip
yes.
it in
So,
there. I'm working on the 2025 schedule.
Yeah, and thank you for what you continue to do for our community and the other communities out here as well. So you're making a difference. Please know that, and I want to give Matthew his flowers too for making all this possible. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you. All of those things are true of you as well. So thank you for sharing your time with me. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Hopefully you stuck through to the end to hear all of the pain points. If you found value in this episode, please share it with someone else. We release a new episode every Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time, so be sure to subscribe so you get those notifications. And until next time, keep branching out.